Welcome to Asset Television, your best station for news, politics, business, sports and entertainment. Your one-stop channel, Asset Television.
Hello and thanks for staying with us on Asset Television. This is Issues of the Moment, and today we have Brigadier General Sani Kukusheka Usman, retired, MNI, FNR, PRO, Sakin Yakin Kanwan Kasina. He was former Director, Army Public Relations, and currently he has a corporate entity where he disseminates information. Of course, you know him as a guru in that field. He's also a consultant, corporate affairs and information services, Director, Nigeria Army Resource Center. Of course, we also know from his background that he was commissioned in 1993 and a place where he stayed for over 30 years in the Nigerian Army and retired voluntarily and meritorious. Welcome, General, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
General, I want to start by asking you, probably when you enlisted in the Army, Nigeria was not like this. I'm talking of insecurity. And you hardly had any problems except for maybe once in a while when there is foreign, outside the country, when Nigerian troops had to be moved to that place. But in Nigeria, it was so peaceful. Will you want to say you like the way Nigeria is today?
I think if you are talking as of today, being the 24th of
October 2024.
2024, given the prevailing circumstances, security-wise, nobody, no right-thinking person or anybody that means well to Nigeria in particular and to humanity generally will be pleased with the current security situation for obvious reasons. In the past decades and some years, we have been grappling with the issues of terrorism and insurgency as manifested in the activities of Boko Haram terrorist groups and others. You know what it was, in the sense that the symbol of democracy in this country were desecrated.
Yes.
The UN building, the police headquarters, Mogadishu cantonment, and even commercial entities, you know, Barnes Plaza, the bus terminus. I'm not even talking about worship centers. And of course, that is the bus terminal. And of course, even the media was not spared. You know what happened to one of the newspapers in Abuja and even in Kaduna while I was there. So looking at it maybe 20 years ago, and that time, and now in the northwest we have the problem of banditry and kidnapping and so many other parts of the country, to the point that those of us that came from that area, you are either a victim or potential victims of such. So sincerely speaking, you cannot say that you are satisfied. However, we appreciate and understand the effort being made to make sure that Nigeria is safer and more secure. So it's more or less like a work in progress, given, you know, the global happenings that impacted on Nigeria, as it were. We know, you know, what do you call it, the climate change, so many contributory factors and on and on. I think the most important thing is we look at what is being done to mitigate these challenges, to make Nigeria better. And I know that so much is being done. Yes, agreed. To a large extent, it's kinetic in the sense that it's more or less like the deployment of security forces. And if you look at it in the sense that dealing with security challenges of this nature, especially insurgency, the kinetic aspect of it is insignificant compared to non-kinetic. What do I mean? I mean, put it on the scale of 100, the kinetic or the force is at most 35%. So what happened to 65%? That means other components of the society ought to be doing that. And it borders down on issue of governance. Now, let's look at it even basic thing. Like we have 3 tiers of government in this country, the federal, state, and local government. You know it. I know it. The local government system is not working. And efforts is being made, to make sure that these local governments are autonomous. But the people that ought to know better, they are trying to scuttle it for some reason best known to them. And sincerely speaking, the local government system acts as a buffer, because bulk of the security challenges or socio-economic challenges stem from local issues that were mishandled. They blossom into.
When you say the local government system is no longer working, you suggest that it has been hijacked by the governors.
Well, you may use the word hijacked, but I would rather say that it is not working. We are not even talking about the reason why it is not working, but the fact remains that it is not performing optimally or the way it should. Except a few instances. The employment opportunities are not there, except for the armed forces and the security forces that regularly recruit.
Yes, from the local
so you
government.
Go to local government to get indigenous form and all the rest. Unlike dealing with sanitation, dealing with local issues, and I told you this, especially banditry, you can pin it down to a particular local government, particular district, particular village. So if had it been that this system is working and functioning effectively, people would have been able to deal with these issues before they escalate to the extent that it will go to state and state to federal. So this, I'm just giving that as an example, just to portray, the fact that yes, things are not supposed to be. They are not the way they are supposed to be. So what I'm trying to say is, we look at what is the way forward. The starting point, I have just pinpointed the issue of local government. What do we do? Yes. I pinpointed the issue of governance. What do? We improve. And sincerely speaking, there is a growing divisive tendencies among the components of Nigerian society, for the simple fact that an average Nigerian doesn't have that sense of belonging
any longer.
Yeah, because we look at it compared to other countries. Yes, which U.S. president was saying that do not ask of what your country should do for you, but rather what you will do for your country. But that they are well up. Their country has given them sense of belonging, so there is that obligation. But here we are, components of Nigerian society, instead of coming together to be glued, more united, we tend to be working at cross purposes. So the starting point is that, and some of that, that a lot of Nigerians are dissatisfied. Issues of injustice, issues of lack of sense of belongings, and all the rest. So now that we are looking at the problems, what are the solutions? You have to emphasize on, the unity of the country.
Yes.
And we have more that unite us or bind us together than what divide us. And I always say it, the average Nigerian is a good person. I can tell you. Regardless of the security challenges, let's assume you are even traveling by car from Abuja to Kaduna. Yes, there are security challenges. I can tell you, if your vehicle breaks down, there are good Samaritans that will stop and ask.
That is true.
They will lend a helping hand. And those are the building blocks. And we have professional groups, and quite a number of components of Nigerian society have been neglected. And one of it is the human resource. Check any nation. What makes it great, it is not the military might, even though it's a factor. But I can tell you the human resource, and Nigeria is so blessed. So what do you do with that? Or what have you done? Especially those that constitute almost 67 or more percent, which is the youth.
Yes. Now, a while ago, we seem to heap the blames on the local government structures. And we cannot maybe absorb the local, the chieftaincy and the sultanate or whatever, because these people are at the grassroots. If the governors fail to do what they ought to have done to local government administration, what should the traditional institution do?
You see, I think terms are clarification of terms are very important in the sense that I am not heaping blame, but I am pointing out certain things that
ought to have been done.
Exactly. So I have not been pointing who is responsible for. You see, the problem of Nigeria, I think if you are talking about blame, it's supposed to be a collective responsibility, in the sense that each component of Nigerian society has a role to play in the march towards national development, peace and security. Yes, some have statutory responsibility in terms of leadership, but even if you look at it from the social aspect, the family system, you know that our society of today is not the society of yesteryears. You know, the sense of belonging. Yes, agreed. And I talked about globalization and all the rest. Now we have Generation Z, Gen Z. You know, they are potent of understanding. Now, unlike a situation, I don't know where you come from, but where I come from in those days, you know, you don't even defer to authorities, but there are certain people that are highly respected. It could be the headmaster, it could be the pastor, it could be, you know, a respected elder in the community. Once he or she comes out to talk, that's the end of the matter. But these days, even those in the position of authority, they are not respected, simply because the value system has been eroded over time. So everybody has a role to play, right from the family system. Take, for instance, in the north, we have the Almajiri system. You cannot give birth to children and you don't expect to cut. I mean, you don't expect something to come out of it when you don't even know how, where, and how they sleep. You don't cater for them. You know, those kind of things are contributory factor. But beyond even that, families are finding it very difficult to even feed, to the extent of giving children sense of belonging and, you know, proper upbringing, as it were. And even the family man that is supposed to be upright, now with this kind of socio-economic challenges, value system are being eroded. When you are thinking of, you know, even the concept of security. Somebody who is hungry, you cannot be talking about security. The stomach infrastructure will come into play. So these are some of the factors that we have to critically look at. So it is no question of, and if you are talking about what the traditional rulers, you look at the local government reform of 1976. You know, initially before that, I think they had a role to play. But look at our constitution from 1999 and 1979 to date. They don't have any constitutional role. Yes, the politicians in the night, they will go and consult them, highly refer them, but even the highest ranking traditional ruler is not as constitutionally as big as a local government chairman.
The traditional so you look at political.
So you look at this. These are some of the issues, and unless we sit down and agree and look at our traditional institutions, what role do we have to give them officially? Not that we'll be just mouthing things. We have to, you know, walk the talk, as it were. And
security
it is not just enough to have policies, but you have to make sure that these policies are realistic and are being implemented. Now, let's even look at the National Security Strategy of 2019. It made provisions for so many things, joint fusion centers, and it has not been followed. It prescribed roles for components of Nigerian society. Who is it that is supposed to be responsible for that? And to what extent are we coordinating that to have this sense of belonging? So these are some of the issues. And I think we need to have a conversation in respect of these issues to see to what extent are we incorporating the components of Nigerian society in the security architecture and give them roles and responsibility. But it is not just even that. They have to be sufficiently educated, enlightened, and empowered in terms of resources. It might not necessarily be monetary.
General, when you talk about conversation, Nigerians have had enough of all this, because now they have one conference there, one conference talking about one thing, and tomorrow they say there's a white paper. Well, they have not done anything to implement those reports
That
coming.
is why I made reference to walking the talk. So it is not enough.
That is it.
Of course, we have had instances of policy somersaults because this one, some people will, successive government, they have laudable ideas, but simply because it was the other person
That suggested it.
you jettison it. But it is not supposed, like in those days, I know. You remember in the 70s or thereabout, we have even national development plans.
Yeah.
That's, that are followed strictly, and you keep on testing and adjusting it. And that is why the essence of monitoring and evaluation in terms of policy issues, it is not just enough to recommend and have implementation strategy, but to what extent have you made provision for the realistic implementation of such policies, and how do you monitor and evaluate to ensure that you test to make sure that it meets. Then if what you are doing is good, you keep on improving, then you move on to keep on improving. Unlike developed countries, regardless of whoever it is, whether it is Dr. Akwaya or whoever, whether it is Sani Usman, it's immaterial. The most important thing is Nigeria.
That's it.
To what extent are you contributing for the well-being of Nigeria? So we should jettison our personal idiosyncrasies or egos and all the rest for the overall.
Well, General, we have to go on a very short break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about these situations.
Welcome to Asset Television, your best station for news, politics, business, sports and entertainment. Your one-stop channel, Asset Television.
Yeah, welcome back from the break. We are still here with Brigadier General Sani Usman, retired. As we were, before we went on break there, we were talking about some security situations in the country. And you heard him when he was talking from a very vexed position, how Nigeria has slipped into what we are today. But I want to also further ask him, because we are also told that there had not been synergy in the military services. For instance, the Nigerian Army is working alone, the Nigerian Air Force is working alone, unlike what they had in Liberia, where there was a synergy before they were able to defeat the insurgents in that country and that of Sierra Leone. Why have they not applied it here? Can you say something about this, sir?
Well, when you are talking about such things, you have to put it in a proper perspective or context. And, Liberia and Sierra Leone, yes, were helping our African brothers, yes, or West African, to restore peace, and some extraneous variables were not there. But here we are in the Nigerian society, and first and foremost, bulk of the security challenges, let's assume, or let's talk about terrorism and insurgency. It was more or less like a novelty, because 25 years ago, if anyone has ever told us that we'll experience this kind of thing, we would have said, you reject it or whatever, yes, and all the rest. But here we are. It became reality of time. So it is not just the security forces, but even the overall Nigerian society was more or less taken aback, even though some people will say that the signs were there. And that is why we talked about injustice and all the rest. In fact, people were even referring the emergence of Boko Haram to some of the issues of security that emanated in some other parts of the country. Take, for instance, Kaduna State, the Zangon Katab crisis.
Yes.
There were quite a number of IDPs that were kept in, Hajj camp and all the rest. So when people grew up in IDP camp and they have this dissatisfaction, and Mohammed Yusuf was alleged to have taken advantage of that, and of course instigated people, because they don't look at themselves as people that have been treated fairly by the Nigerian state and what have you. But that is just by the way. So if you look at the training, the training was more or less like conventional warfare, defense of the territorial integrity. Internal security, in most cases, there were, entry and exit strategy. Look at Metasine, it was decisively dealt with, but here we have drawn out insurgency that lasted over a decade or so. So you can understand, eventually, people were learning lessons, including the military and security
But now,
forces.
couldn't it have been contained by now?
I am coming. And if you are thinking along that line, I think we need to give kudos to the Nigerian states and the armed forces and security forces. Because if you are talking about insurgency, let's even look at it. Take, for instance, Colombia. They were fighting the FARC for 58 years before they were able to resolve the issue. Now, look at what happened in Iraq. Look at what happened in Afghanistan. Even the so-called developed countries. America had to pack out of Afghanistan without achieving results. But here you are, despite what we have had. Remember, Nigerians wrote to an American president that because of human rights abuses, they should not oblige Nigeria certain weapons needed to prosecute the war against Boko Haram. But allegations of human rights abuses, restrictions here and there, sanctions, but yet we are able to achieve substantial progress within a decade or more. You understand? Remember, Boko Haram had even coveted some territories of this country.
Yes.
Creating a caliphate. But where is the caliphate today? You are here before you move out of Abuja, let's say to even Kefi. You know how long it takes you because of the security challenges, the checkpoints and all the rest, but now you have freedom of movement. So let's give kudos to all those things. And then coming back to your questions about synergy and all the rest. So it was a work in progress and a substantial progress has been achieved. I concede the fact that initially there were hiccups in terms of, synergy of effort, collaboration, cooperation, and even the coordination itself. And it is a national issue in the sense that let's even look at the criminal justice system in the country. Let's look at the last rung, which is the correctional service. What is the relationship of correctional service with the Nigerian police force? Because in most instances, some of the criminal activities are planned within the four walls of the prison. And there were complaints even by the Department of State Services that they would track phone calls to the prison walls. So it is not just the army or the armed forces, and I can tell you that even yesterday, I was telling them when I went to deliver a lecture at the Air War College in Makurdi, the improved synergy of effort, it goes down to operational level, not even at strategic level. Now, a division has Air Force assets at its disposal. They detach, aircraft to them to prosecute the 6th Division, to prosecute, the concerted effort about oil bunkering and what have you. So there is improvement in terms of the synergy of effort, unlike in the past. And I think we need to encourage them along that line to improve beyond strategic to operational and tactical level, that will eliminate the bureaucracies. Because in those days, there were instances when you are requesting for air support tech, for instance, it has to be cleared by the Chief of Air Staff. But now there is a better understanding at, principal staff level, or even at the air officer commanding and his equivalent GOC or that of the Navy. There is an understanding they can. There is a mutual support in terms of sharing of assets and joint operations. And when you look at even the missions, divisions of the various service chiefs, everything ends up with a joint environment. So it's a work in progress, and I know that effort is being made to further coordinate the activities of these services at the grand strategic, at the defense level, the Office of the National Security Advisor, and all the rest. So all we need to do is to continue to, encourage them. And more so now, the use of technology, harmonizing their assets. The assets available. Some time ago, a minister went to police headquarters. He realized that we have assets that are grossly underutilized. So this is it. And the more you cooperate, the more you collaborate, it will enhance the chances of dealing with the security challenges, because you improve on your weaknesses and take advantage of your assets available to others, because they are uniquely even among the armed forces, the speciality of the Navy is entirely different with that of Air Force.
I want to also look at one situation, because now we have this banditry, kidnapping, and the rest of them. Somebody will be kidnapped here. The bandits will make a call, and the security agencies have all these trackers. So can't they be able to track those numbers, the location, so that all these things, and they also go to banks to save this money?
You see, I'm not holding brief for all the security agencies.
Yes.
You know,
all securities are involved.
I was talking about security education, but at the same time, it's a two-edged sword. So much as you have the interests of all Nigerians at heart, the well-meaning people, you are trying to enlighten them about security and all the rest. Those with criminal tendencies are also watching, they are also listening, they are also trying to work ahead of you to see how they can take advantage of that security information. And I talked about globalization. The internet, the social media had made things much, much easier for the criminally minded person. And that is why you have had instances, you know, people defrauding people unsuspectedly, you know, money or valuables and all the rest. So now, there was effort, if you remember, by the then Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy,
yes,
to harmonize data, and that is why the issue of registration of SIM and what have you comes into play. And I could remember the then minister delivered a paper which I was the moderator at the Nigerian Army Resource Center during one of our monthly lecture series, and he gave an elaborate account of what transpired. In fact, the then Boko Haram terrorist group threatened him and passed fatwa on him. So that would have told you that that effort was a step in the right direction. But what it requires is proper sustenance and harmonization. But unfortunately, just like everything else, we tend to have policy somersault. You start and you forget. But unfortunately, again, the criminals are one step ahead. Initially, they use their own phone numbers to call. But now they use kidnapped victims' phone. So even if you track, it will show you a particular location that is not accessible. I know for a particular instance in Niger State that even if you move troops, they are already on high ground, they have advantage more than you. Before you reach there, they are seeing you, they will ambush you. And you know the issue of infrastructure is an impediment in responding to some of this, especially during rainy season. Some of these places, they are not easily accessible. And wherever these kidnappers are keeping people, you realize is a place that is has cover from view and sometimes cover from fire. So even if you want to track, you are tracking, let's say, Mr. Paul that has been kidnapped, you would definitely be tracking false number, you will see it. But unlike a situation whereby...
What of the air power now?
Exactly. Then, you know, effort has been made, first and foremost. You know, whenever you are dealing with issues of this nature, the legal framework is the starting point. Now, I talked about human rights, you know, concern. Now, these guys were even using high-profile weapons. So, and they were concerned that the government or the security forces were using higher caliber weapons. But these are people that have the capacity to even bring down aircraft because they are using anti-aircraft guns and what have you. So they were declared terrorists. So you have that has been settled. But then even yesterday, I was looking at some of the aircraft. You know, they are not even economically viable. Now,
including the Tucano,
you have a dismal concentration of terrorists. You cannot use a high caliber weapon on them unless you have timely and accurate information, because we have had instances of mishap. But like I said, it's something that is work in progress. Everybody has a role to play, and these security forces, they are no magicians. They need the support and cooperation of people. Now, you talked about the money, banking, and all the rest. I quite agree with you. I don't think an average kidnapper will collect a ransom of 10 million naira and start moving in the bush with it. Somebody is helping him to invest it. Who is that somebody? And that is why the concept of war economy comes into play. That kidnapping and banditry has become a viable business simply because we allow other things to deteriorate. I talked about the local government system, the army of unemployed people, and the people that were supposed to take, for instance, I came from a village that where 50,000 could set you up and start business. But you have lofty ideas, you want to start a legitimate means way of living, but you don't have the means to start it. Maybe credit facilities. If you go to look for a loan, you know how much they will charge you and bring collateral, and so the social security safety nets are not there. So these are some of the things. So these criminal elements, they fill in that vacuum. They will come and entice young people with even in fact, Boko Haram. Sometimes it's as low as 5,000 for people to commit suicide, to go and detonate bombs, simply because they are not sufficiently educated, they are not economically empowered to have better options. So people that are not supposed to be involved into criminalities are being enticed into criminalities, not knowing sometimes. Like the mainstream power of bandits and kidnappers basically are the informants.
So, General, now,
so basically, unless you address it, and it goes back to the issue of good governance.
Yeah. So
giving every Nigerian sense of belonging in any way, talking about social security system, employment opportunities, justice, because almost everybody is a victim in the Nigerian society.
Good. In winding up now, I want you to give Nigerians your general opinion about the situation of the country and how you feel we can be able to get out of this quagmire.
I think the general in developed societies, if you look at their history, there is no way, and I reduce it to this, that everything in life has a price tag.
Yeah.
If you are marching towards a better society, a developed society, sacrifices have to be made. And the sacrifices had to be made by the people that want that development. It varies. So first and foremost is the issue of giving people greater sense of responsibility and galvanizing them for them to have a fair understanding that, look, that the move to make Nigeria better is a collective responsibility. And everybody has a role to play, but we need to understand our roles and we need to make sacrifice. And that is where the government comes into play, because they have to play, the leading role. Marshal Nigerians. And that is why when you are faced with a fire incident, you don't discriminate the kind of water used in quenching that fire. The most important thing is to quench the fire.
Fire water.
Exactly. So
So
basically, every Nigerian has to be given sense of belonging to understand that he or she is an equal partner in the march towards a better and greater Nigerian society.
Thank you so much, General.
And each Nigerian should also understand he or she has a responsibility in making Nigeria better. So we have to sacrifice, we have to make the best we can, so that, because at the end of the day, let me tell you, nobody, if Nigeria is in quagmire the way you are saying, we are faced with far more catastrophic issues,
yes,
no nation in the world can contain the refugee
or the
refugees of 200 million.
Yes.
So basically that is it. And I know that there are international conspiracies that they don't want Nigeria to be prosperous, to be united, because it will be the end of market for some of their products.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's been nice having General Sani Usman in our studio, and we're discussing some security and other basic issues that have bedeviled Nigeria over the time. This is Issues of the Moment. Thank you for staying with us. Stay with us again for more other programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity.
Welcome to Asset Television, your best station for news, politics, business, sports and entertainment. Your one-stop channel, Asset Television.